Stewardship's a concept of love. It is about all the gifts that have been given to us. And it is about how we manage those gifts for the purposes of God. That does include our money. And that does include how we use our time. But it also includes how we relate to this wondrous creation. And were we to have a confession of sin based on that alone, we could have more than a month of prayers of confession. So, I talked with Coleman coming up to stewardship, and I knew that we were following a tough act last Sunday with the Jazz. But sometimes a prophet not known for being particularly religious can remind us of some of those issues about managing the gift of creation. And so in this case, and don't cringe, I've chosen that lovable old prophet, John Prine.
When I was a child, my family would travel to western Kentucky, where my parents were born. And there's a backwoods old town that's often remembered so many times that my memories are worn. And Daddy, won't you take me back to Muhlenberg County, down by the Green River where paradise lay? Well, I'm sorry, my son, but there's no use in asking. It's Peabody's coal train that has hauled it away.
Well, sometimes we'd travel right down the Green River to the abandoned old prison down by Hendry Hill, where the air smelled like snakes and we'd shoot with our pistols, but empty pop bottles was all we would kill.
And Daddy, won't you take me back to Muhlenberg County, down by the Green River where paradise lay? Well, I'm sorry, my son, but you're too late in asking. Mr. Peabody's coal train has hauled it away. Then the coal company came with the world's largest shovel, and they tortured the timber and stripped all the land. Well, they dug for their coal till the land was forsaken. Then they wrote it all down as the progress of man. And Daddy, won't you take me back to Muhlenberg County, down by the Green River where paradise lay? Well, I'm sorry, my son, but you're too late in asking. Mr. Peabody's coal train has hauled it away.
When I die, let my ashes float down the Green River. Let my soul roll on up to the paradise dam. I'll be halfway to heaven with paradise waiting, just 5 miles away from wherever I am.
And Daddy, won't you take me back to Muhlenberg County, down by the Green River where paradise lay? Well, I'm sorry, my son, but you're too late in asking. Mr. Peabody's coal train has hauled it away. And Daddy, won't you take me back to Muhlenberg County, down by the Green River where paradise lay? I'm sorry, my son, but you're too late in asking. Mr. Peabody's coal train has hauled it away. And Daddy, won't you take me back to Muhlenberg County?
Sometimes, sometimes when we feel this thing down deep in your insides, and by nature, I like to write. I know you think I just like to talk, but I like to write too. And so sometimes I get to writing. I don't get to write as much here because the newsletter is so well done, I don't need to add to it. But I needed to write something out today. Years and years ago, John Robert McFarland related a story in a magazine that's long since been defunct. It struck me then, and it strikes me now incredibly relative. It goes like this. It seems that the lion was beating his chest and roaring at all the other animals. Why aren't you big and strong like me? Now, the zebras ran away. The giraffes disguised themselves as trees. The hippos sank underneath the water. When the lion came to the monkey, however, and roared, "Why aren't you big and strong like me?" the monkey replied in a wee small voice, "I've been sick." Having served for so many years, and some might think too long, in mainline, or as it's come to be known, old line churches, I can relate this morning to the monkey's response. Those of us in the main line, well, we've been, I know this is an impolitic term, especially with the tragedy of the week, but we have been shot at by evangelicals as having been, through the years, too political. Something that I find sadly hilarious in light of their behavior the last 40 years. It's ironic, isn't it, that we're the ones who have been called too political? I've never told anybody how they should vote from the pulpit. I've never told anybody that one person was better than the other person. We have since been charged by some of the same folk as being too backward and too slow to embrace technology. I see when I got here that I didn't even need to take that so-called battle on. That you've kind of embraced that and find in using the media as an opportune way, and we're trying to do some catching up on social media these days. We've been called out for being heretics, a charge that some part of me that's just so corrupted loves. When I first came into the UCC, there was a pastor in Southern Conference in Eastern Virginia who had been the first person in, I forget how many years, who had been tried for heresy because it was a church that was a joint church between the UCC and the Presbyterians, and this guy was so out there, the Presbyterians tried him for heresy. I don't know what they expected when they called a UCC pastor anyway. We have been written off by the media because of diminishing membership. Religious sociologists have said that we are absolutely irrelevant in the postmodern world, as if any religious body in today's country can be seen as anything other than irrelevant, given some of the crazy things that we've done. On top of that, many people come into our church, they find our liturgy too programmatic and too boring and quenching the spirit. And so they find themselves someplace where there are shorter sermons and quicker songs, and they can get in and out because they have people conducting the parking lot. in the midst of this, all this adversity, lions keep roaring from every sector and every direction. And what has been the response of churches like this and pastors like me? We have tried to cover ourselves somewhat with leaves and have said meekly, well, we've been sick. As the pastor of Cocoa Beach Community Church, I continue hearing lions roar. They're in Brevard County and they're in Space Coast of Florida. They are scattered all over the place. Same old tunes, same old criticisms, same old verses. And I confess to you that sometimes I get a little intimidated by those who would have us doubt ourselves and the word that we believe comes from the Creator. And then doubt about our future seeps in. And in this church, more than even some other churches, I think this is true of all Florida churches, more than even some other churches around the country, we look at our age demographic and it's even more daunting. But I want to say something here today. In spite of the lions roaring and the intimidation factor, some Sunday mornings I come here and it happens. Sunday morning rolls around and there's a group of folk, mostly women. That's why I go in there. They need to have a token voice besides Lauren's. Meeting Lauren's class, and they ask questions and they talk and they give opinions and the discussion can be lively. And I throw my 2 cents in just like everybody else does. And there's energy all over the room. And I walk through the social hall and the choir's practicing and singing, trying to fit their music right into the overall integrity of the worship service. And then I come in and I see you with your smiling faces and you're shaking hands and you're embracing, and we hear testimony from people during the stewardship Sundays who have experienced the grace of God through you. People who have had joint replacements, people who have had tragedy in their life, people who needed to have a friend, and you showed up. And on those Sunday mornings, which happen, thank God, more often than not, I get caught up in the Spirit of God, the creative Spirit of God. I get swept up, and in those moments, I'm reminded that I am part of something grander than this congregation, grander than my dreams and my schemes, that I am part of the realm of God, made up of people who look in all kinds of ways, who have all kinds of opinions, and we're a part of that great realm. And on those Sundays, when we leave this place, we sound more like Easter trumpets than the squeaky monkey's voice. We sound more like we believe in the resurrection than people who are on the way to a sad ending. On those Sundays, we're not out somewhere trying to disguise ourselves in trees. Well, I couldn't get up a tree anyway. Reminds me of another John Prine song, but I won't sing that one. On those Sunday mornings, I'm not ready to run away from anybody. On those Sunday mornings, I don't want to be like a hippo seeking to the bottom of the St. Johns River. And those Sunday mornings, when the lion comes around, I'm not going to sound like a weak monkey claiming to have been sick. Because on that Sunday morning, any given Sunday morning, I know that the Spirit of God blows where it will, and we have no idea how it's changing us or where it's taking us. And that used to scare the daylights out of me. And as I've gotten older, I find it such a blessing that I don't have to know where we're going. Opportunities to amplify that energy abound. It's whenever we find ourselves moving along the way and we find a neighbor standing in line, and maybe they were wanting to tell us some of their problems or whatever, and we find the courage in that moment to say, I know that must be terribly hard, and I'm willing to do whatever I can to be helpful. But you know what? Some of the hardest places I have found strength from Cocoa Beach Community Church, where everybody's welcome. We are our best advertising, folk. And Stewardship Sunday is a time in which we reflect on the gifts that are ours, the voices that are ours, the witness to which we have been called, and to find ways to support it in tangible ways, because we believe in the ministry, and if we don't believe in the ministry, we certainly can't expect anyone else to. When we make a pledge or fill out a pledge cards, which, by the way, I've been in places where say, well, you know, I don't want anybody collecting off me, calling me up and so forth and so on. And you know what? I can't ever remember anybody getting it done from the church. Churches I've been in, yes, people have gotten quarterly statements. Pledging simply means that leadership has some idea what the depth and the breadth and the span of our ministry will be in the coming year, rather than guessing or tossing a coin. When we make our pledge card, we're saying, and I hate for this to sound like a PBS commercial, that we believe that the good news always overcomes the bad news. That our message, our ministry, the movement of which we're a part, is our witness that all humanity is connected through Christ. If you've gotten nothing else about my Romans rambling, I hope you've gotten that. That we will give that others may know that connectivity, that point of contact. I don't want us to sound like lions and act like we're the dominant beast in the forest. We don't need hubris. What we need is to let the light of Christ shine through us. And the witness we bear about how we use our time, and the witness we bear about how we use our monetary resources, and the witness we bear about this wondrous creation and how we find ways to best take care of it rather than exploit it. So yes, it is Stewardship Sunday, and yes, I am doing the obligatory message. One of my colleagues, long since retired, says, "Thank God I haven't had to do that in years." And I had to say, this year in particular, for whatever reason, thank God I get to do that this year. With all the craziness in the world, with people killing people at random, with hate speech everywhere, with all that's going on in the brokenness, the world needs a witness. Your witness. It needs to hear that there is a balm in Gilead, a comforting presence. It needs to know that injustice will be called out. It needs to know that there is a realm far beyond what most people that get up every morning have conceived of. The wondrous realm of God. Whatever you do today, or next Sunday, I pray that you will keep in mind what your place in that witness is. The world's had too many monkeys running things for too long. And you could take that literally if you wanted to. It needs to hear the voice of people who care. And you, I believe, are exactly those people.